Download the new Scotia app with a faster low-time bank wherever, whenever. Be in control and transfer funds or pay bills quicker with just a few taps and a swipe. Plus, we're serious about security. Want real-time notifications for all your transactions? Check. Log in with fingerprint? Check. Turn your credit card on and off? Triple check. Protected. Your money is safe and secure. Bank wherever, whenever. You choose with the new Scotia app.
Wow, stop. What?
Oliver!
Is who that hollering out my name?
Who are you following because Scotiabank?
Quick, go which bank? Whole foot like we fit on our yard and bank online.
Ain't that safe?
It's the safest thing. Just download the Scotia app or go to Scotia online for everything like transfer or check your balance and everything online free.
Free?
Bank with Scotia online. Let me show you. But I'm not going with my phone.
Welcome and thank you for joining ScotiaLive. My name is P.L.A.N. Harris and I'm the Senior Manager for Change Management and Communications at Scotiabank and the moderator for today's session. Now, with Mother's Day on the horizon, what better time to talk about mommy and money than today? And here to discuss this important topic with me are Mrs. Deborah Lopez-Spence. She's the Vice President for Sales and Service, Insurance and Wealth Management at Scotiabank, and also media personality and so much more, Miss Yendi Phillips. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Great. Now, these lovely ladies will give us some insight on what it means to be a working mom, combining career and raising children, and making what can sometimes be very challenging financial decisions. Now, today's session is on Zoom and on IG Live, and we invite you to send your questions, and you can type your questions on Zoom or Instagram Live, and we will do our best to address those questions as they come in. Now, before we start to talk money, let's get to know the people on set, right? So I want to hear about their kids and also what I call their mommy superpower. I'll go first. So as I said, my name is P.L.A.N. Harris. I have 4 kids, 4 daughters, Nia Ashley, 15, Zoe Marie, 13, Sarah, 10, Sarah Renee, 10, Anna Cherie, 4. Yes, they're hyphenated names like mine because I was obsessing about hyphens. In terms of superpower, I would say maybe 1 or 2 of my friends way back in the day would comment that I can be physically clumsy. That's possibly true. We're not sure about it being true, but it was said. And after I became a mommy, I found that if a bowl of stew chicken was going to fall off the counter and I was 20 feet away, somehow I reach and catch that bowl before it falls. If the child is on the counter and is going to fall and I'm 20 feet away, I'm going to lunge forward and catch that child. And so I would say my mommy superpower is agility. Motherhood has changed me. And so that's what I'm talking about when I say a mommy superpower. So Yendi, tell us about your daughter and what your mommy superpower is.
So my daughter Israel is 8. She'll be 9 in September. That's actually really hard for me to even wrap my mind around still, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And I think my mommy superpower is the perfect balance of the fun and strict mom at the same time. I am the mom that all the kids say that I'm the most fun aunt in the group. Izzy's bestie says that I'm like a teenager, but they all fall in line when I speak one time. None of them challenge me because they all know that my house is business, but it's the fun house, which somehow I think it's a great balance. I don't know how I managed to do it, but it works.
That's awesome.
I speak once.
You need to share that. Speaking once. We know about repeating, but that speaking once is pretty powerful.
And still the fun house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should share notes afterwards.
I got you, Shelly.
Deborah, over to you. Your kids and your superpower.
Sure. So I have 2 children.
Yes.
My daughter is Emmanuel, and she's 9. And my son is Noah, and he's 7. And they are a joyful handful. I absolutely adore them. They keep me on my toes. My superpower. So if I was to ask my husband what my superpower, he'd say getting things done, because I have a knack for getting everything done with all of the moving parts, even with work and career, to be able to balance getting everybody to their activities, you know, schedules for meals, getting the supermarketing, doing bills, whatever that is. So getting things done. But I would say my perspective is super hearing.
Ah,
And
that's
so
always useful.
don't ask me to hear what my husband said to me sitting where Yendi is. But if glitter is about to drop downstairs on the floor, for some reason, I can hear it. I can tell what their cries are. I know when it's a fake cry versus a
real
pain
cry,
versus sadness. And I think that that's something that, you know, most mothers can appreciate, right?
Yeah.
What does that cry? So definitely super hearing.
Fascinating. We can share notes afterwards about these kinds of superpowers. But let's talk about money now.
Sure.
All right, so money management, Deborah, first with you. What are the main principles or elements of money management that we need to think of?
Sure. So, I mean, money management is simply the planning and tracking of both the sources of money as well as the spending of money. And it involves budgeting, it involves saving, and it involves investing. And, you know, there are a lot of key elements to a financial plan, which we can talk about in a little bit. But just to say that money management, you know, can be proactive, which is obviously the preferred method, that you have a disciplined approach to how you manage your money on an ongoing basis, on a set frequency. But it can also be reactive in that there may be some change in your life and what happens to you that would cause for you to have to create a shift in terms of how you're managing your money.
Yeah.
The birth of a child
Yeah.
is a life-changing event.
Absolutely.
That you have to then react to and then become proactive around how you manage going forward. So that's really what money management is about. And, you know, surveys and statistics will show, and I know this is up on screen for the viewers to see, that certainly in Jamaica, our experience is that at least 40% of households are women-led.
Yes.
And that these households tend to be larger families, and in at least half, there are children. And for all of the mothers that are on this call and sitting right here with me, we know that the minute our child was born or our children were born, that our priorities shifted.
Yes.
And with that means that your money management and your planning has to shift.
Yes.
And so a key part of money management is planning. So there's a saying that says, if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it with amazing accuracy.
Yes.
And so it all begins with a plan. And so it's really important that, and as I would say to, you know, when I was an advisor, and I would say to my clients, and as I talk to even to my children and whomever will listen really, is that you need to first confront the brutal facts of where you are today. What does your life look like today? And a great way of doing that is to actually do a net worth statement.
Yes.
And you can get your hands on a net worth statement online, but your net worth statement is really takes a look at what are my assets, what do I own, and my liabilities, what do I owe?
Can anybody have a net worth statement?
Anybody
I
can
feel
do a
like,
net worth
you know,
statement. Anybody can sit down and look through, and typically will be in a kind of a spreadsheet. It'll give you an idea, listing of all the different types of assets that you could possibly have, which can include, you know, furniture, artwork, your home, your business, your car, right? And so going through this process, stocks, bonds, other investments that you have, your bank balances, listing out what are your assets.
What if you don't have anything really, or if you feel like you don't have anything? It's still wise to sit down and write
It's
things
still
down.
wise to sit down, because then you want to look at the other side. Are there liabilities? What are the obligations? What do you owe?
Yeah.
So I still think that it's important to sit down and have that reflection,
Yes.
because it kind of grounds you firmly in where am I at today. And then I think what gets exciting is your vision for the future.
Yes.
So now you get to dream about what are my goals and dreams? What do I want for myself? What do I want for my children? Where do I want to send them to school? What travel experiences do I want to have? You know, when do I want to retire? And really setting some short, medium, and long-term goals to help you to achieve that. And I think that's an extremely important thing to do. And it has to be written down.
Yeah.
And goals have to be smart, right? We learn about smart goals, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound.
Yes.
And the reason I say writing it down, because it creates greater accountability. Our minds play tricks on us.
Yeah.
You can set a goal and you have it just in your head. They say that any goal that's not written down is just a wish. It's very unlikely to happen. That when you write it down, it goes up. And they say that if you tell someone else and create even further accountability,
That's true, absolutely.
you're even more likely
Yeah.
to achieve your goal. And I think that's the power of having an advisor as well. Someone who's going to be there to help you on that accountability as you go forward.
I think what I hear you saying is that money management is really life management. Sometimes we talk about money like it's a separate thing, but you're talking about dreams, your goals,
Absolutely.
and putting money alongside those things.
Absolutely, because
That's
money is
pretty
really
awesome.
that tool to live your best life.
Yeah, yeah. Let me come over to you now, Yendi. You have achieved so many things. You know, you are known and loved nationally and internationally. But I don't quite see you as a 9-to-5er. You're a bit of an entrepreneur. You do large projects. You're involved in many global things. What does money management look like for you?
So money management for me is something that I've had to take very seriously, because as you rightly say, I don't have a 9-to-5, so I don't have a guaranteed income at the end of every month.
Right.
So the way I look at money is completely different. It's also been different from how I was raised. So most people would not know this, but I actually grew up in a working class family. So my mom was a nurse in a public hospital, and my dad was he looked for jobs as they came up in the classifieds, and he would hold jobs 5 years, 10 years at a time, but I remember him sitting on that dining table with us in his 40s when he went back to university to get his degree.
Oh, that's awesome.
So money management in my home was not necessarily a thing, so to speak, because we definitely lived paycheck to paycheck. So my mom was the lady who baked Christmas pudding to pay the school fee in January and Easter buns to pay the school fee in April. And so I remember seeing that also, by the way, every uniform I've ever worn my entire life, my mom sewed for me at home.
Brilliant.
And I remember seeing that and knowing that about our household and thinking that I wanted something a bit different for myself. I didn't want to have to wait for this to come in and pinch here to pinch there to do that. I didn't want that for myself.
You wanted more control.
I did. I genuinely did. And it's not that I didn't have a fantastic childhood, because I have amazing memories, but that's not the reality I wanted for myself. And so I knew that I had really big dreams from I was very young, and I knew that in order for my life to look different, I was going to have to do something very different. And so with my career, as you rightly mentioned, I will have an endorsement deal, which is a big sum of money coming in, but then I may not work for a month or two. So what I've always done is I've always planned my monthly expenses and my monthly savings, line items, every single month since I got my very first paycheck at 17 years old. So this is my light bill, that's my water bill, this is the internet, but then this is what I'm putting aside for savings. This is what I'm putting aside for travel, because that's my recreation and downtime. I'm gonna buy handbag, I'm gonna buy this thing, that thing. I travel and eat. So that's a line item for me.
Awesome.
But then also when I had my daughter, it became a line item where I added school fees.
Yes.
So instead of the school fee punching me in January, every month I know, okay, I put away this amount, then this amount, then the next month. So every 3
Absolutely,
months,
yes.
the school fee is there for the next term.
Right.
And so the weight of it doesn't hit me. And I have been, I think, as a result of my upbringing, really disciplined with finances. I do not stray or sway from my plan. Whatever is left over is what I can play around with.
Yeah.
But I take my savings really seriously. I remember, well, to this day, to be very honest with you, my parents have never owned a home, never. And that's something that was critically important to me. So again, when I started saving, where my savings was, just below that was actually the down payment for a home. So that was also a line item. And
Yeah.
at 28 years old, I remember I bought my home.
Wow,
And
congratulations.
Thank
That's a
you.
big deal.
And it was a
Yeah.
huge deal for me because it's not something I saw my parents do. They
Yeah.
weren't able to as working class people. And I remember calling my dad and saying to me, meet me at this address. I have something to show you. He had no idea what was going on. I said nothing to a single person. And he walked in the living room. I held up the keys and we hugged each other and bawled.
Of course you did. That's a tearful
Bawled.
moment.
Yeah.
Oh, my
But
goodness.
I saw from then how important it is to be diligent with the management of money. And it's not something that I take lightly at all. And I enjoy my money. I have a good time when I travel. But best believe, even when I travel within a budget. So I
Right.
walk with a specific amount of cash and no other cash. When that cash is finished, it's finished, because that's what I budgeted for this trip.
Right, right.
And I'm very diligent about spending.
So being disciplined
Yeah.
enables you to enjoy what you have.
I believe so,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And I would like to think I'm showing my daughter that in my own action.
Right.
So, even the idea of us walking around, turning off lights in the house, because I say to her, it's something that my partner shared with me, this saying, and when I first heard it, I went, oh, that's quite clever. It's every penny saved is a penny earned. And I want her to understand that every dollar that you save, it's a dollar that you earn, and you're able to put it where you'd like it to go and use it to do something else.
Right.
So how we approach electricity, how we approach money, how we spend in the supermarket. So she will walk up now and she'll say, Mommy, can I have this snack? We read the label and I say, yes, you can pick up 3. And she said, to get the wholesale price? I said, that's right, girl, to get the wholesale price.
She understands the things.
She understands.
Yeah.
So
That's very
I
cool.
think building a culture of being disciplined with money
Yes.
and understanding that you can't treat money with frivolity, but you also must enjoy the fruits of your labor in a managed
Absolutely.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the power is in your hands.
Yeah.
I want to jump over to you now, Deborah, in terms of the main elements of money management, some of the strategies for money management.
Sure. So, I mean, certainly, I think that I talked a little bit about just the discipline.
Yeah.
And so, if you sit down and you've done your net worth statement and you've set some goals and objectives and you've created a roadmap of how you want to get there with your trusted advisor, then it really is going to come down to now the discipline of execution, which is the hardest part. And knowing that all of these elements, I have short-term goals, I have short-term goals of school fees, I have medium-term goals of the down payment on the house, and then one day I want to be able to retire.
Yeah.
And so this idea of budgeting, and I think you hit it on the head, Yendi, in that it really needs to be a reflection of your sources of income and how those sources come in, and then what are those expenses. And those expenses should reflect your priorities, which they do for you, because your priorities are, education for your daughter, your
Yeah.
travel experiences, keeping the lights on. Obviously, those are some of the things that are important. A discipline that I would like to share, and it came from a book that I read many years ago, and I highly recommend, is The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clayson, where he said, in a nutshell, that 10% of what I earn is mine to keep. And that he puts himself at the top of his who to pay list. And very often, we pay the light bill, we pay the water bill, pay the school fees, pay for the internet, and then we hope that there might be something left over, and that's what we say we're going to put away for savings. That's the wrong order.
Right.
Absolutely.
Your savings has to come out first.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be 10%, it could be 3%, it could be 5%.
Yeah.
The power is starting and being disciplined about
Yes.
doing that contribution every single month. And you can do that through, I know it was on the screen before, automatic savings plans,
Yes.
which will allow you, without you even having to think about it, it will come out every month and help to build up your savings, build up your emergency fund. And I can come back to that later. But there's also, pre-authorized contributions that you can do through Scotia Investments, through an investment house, that will allow you to invest over time. And again, take the onus off of you having to remember,
Right.
but that every month on the 30th, this amount is going to come out towards your future, towards your goals. And I think that that's an important discipline, and that there are tools that your financial institution can help you with to take some of the, I have to remember to do this, but if this comes out, then there'll be nothing left, and how am I going to make ends meet?
Yeah, there is that fear sometimes.
There
I
is
hear
that
from-
fear.
yeah.
So I think ASPs, these automatic savings plans, and using pre-authorized contributions is important. And then the discipline of investing and saving and doing it from early.
Yeah.
So oftentimes we think about goals, especially if they're medium or long-term goals, and you think about, I have all the time in the world, right? Especially people in their 20s, right? The world is your oyster, you have all this time. But the longer you wait to start, the less time you have for your money to compound
yes,
and to
yes,
accumulate,
yes.
and for you to earn on your earnings. And so getting started from your first paycheck like you did is so important. And then having that consistent discipline. And I always say to people, retirement is like the furthest thing, right? That's so far away. But you should be thinking about your last paycheck and what's going to happen then when you get your first one.
Yeah.
So right at your first job or whatever that income stream that comes into you, how do I need to sit down with a professional, and I need to determine my goals, my retirement, and begin to plan toward that. Because then it can be a much easier path than waiting till you're in your 40s,
Yeah.
when you now have to invest a lot more and sacrifice a lot more as a result of it to be able to achieve that same end.
So take control from early, because you
Taking
can.
control from early. It's the choices that we make today that define our future.
Absolutely.
Right.
Thank you, Deborah. I gather that we have some viewers online with some questions for us. We have a Real Naturalist JM on Instagram, and they're asking, what advice would you give a new mom that has no idea on the way forward? That's a big one. When you become a mom, it's like it changes everything. So I'm going to jump to you, Andy. What advice would you give a new mom in terms of the way forward?
Well, this feels like it could come from many angles.
Yes.
Obviously, we are doing a financial conversation. So believe it or not, the first thing that came to mind for me was to breastfeed for as long as possible, because the powder milk.
That's a financial
here-
decision, by the way. Yes.
I breastfed for 15 months, and I'm telling you.
So did I, actually, with my
Did
firstborn,
you?
yes.
Well, look at that. And she's healthy,
Yes.
she's well, and the
Lovely.
formula was too dear.
Yes.
So obviously, you have some instances where it may not be an option.
Right.
But I'm just saying that that's one very big way to save a massive expense. But also, I think on the back of what Deborah and myself shared before, one thing that you can definitely do is your child is going to eventually go into school. So instead of waiting until they're 3 or 4 when they're starting preschool, start from the very first check you get when you go back after maternity leave.
Yeah.
Yes.
Put away a little something. And that, believe it or not, putting away a little something might give yourself the peace of mind and the ease to feel like, okay, I can actually manage this, and the weight of it doesn't feel too heavy, because you're slowly building yourself up to, matriculating into that phase of the experience. I also think that you have to rely on your village. I think your village is so crucial for the emotional and mental support.
And it's a big part of money management.
And it's a huge part of money management. Actually, Deborah, I'm sure you had mentioned something about the village being important to motherhood, no?
Yes.
And the money aspect.
Right. No, so for me, village has a much broader meaning.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, traditionally we know our village to be our family, right, and our friends.
Yeah.
And for me, one of the things that right as my children were born, and maybe even slightly before they were born, my friends will tell you that I sat down with my advisor and I said, I want to set up funds for these children.
Yeah.
Because I want that when they reach 18, that they have enough money to fund their way through university or seed a business idea that they have.
You wanted to give
Because
them a great start.
There's been this shift in me then, you must go to college, to, no, I want to just make sure that I prepare and that they are ready for and have the resources to execute on whatever that next step looks like for them when they get to that place.
Yeah.
And so I had, we have an Scotia Portfolios where every single month, I don't even have to think about it, that money is going out into a diversified portfolio that has stocks and bonds and local investments and foreign investments, US denominated investments and Canadian investments and J dollars. And that there's a portfolio mix that is managed by professional fund managers. So my village includes my advisor and these fund managers because they're going to be critical to when my children get to 18, whether they are able to go to the school of their dreams, whether that's here in Jamaica, in Paris or Canada or the US, or they have this amazing entrepreneurial idea that they need to fund.
Thank you, Deborah, and thank you, Yendi. We have another question from Tina. Hi, Tina, and that's via Zoom. How do I instill the importance of saving for the future in my child?
Yes.
So you're trying to get the good behaviors in the children.
Early.
Deborah, you could take that one.
Sure. So, I mean, personally, I think that, from a very early stage, you can begin to teach this discipline. And I think it starts, we always give money for the tooth fairy.
That's right.
And sometimes early on, you will have them doing little chores for which they earn a little bit of money. One of the things that I got for my kids, and I think it really set a great foundation, it's a Piggy Bank, but it has 3 sections. It has a saving, a spending, and a sharing. Because what I wanted is that every time they got money, that a portion of that goes to be saved, a portion that they will be able to spend, whether it's at the pharmacy to buy whatever, lollipop, whatever it is, and a share. Because I really felt that it was important for them to begin to have that spirit of giving.
Absolutely, yes.
From very early on.
I love that.
And so that was something that I thought was a real gift for them, and I know that early on it was great. I also think that, we read to our children, and we can read them all different types of stories, right? You've got all your Dr. Seuss and whatever. And I guess maybe it's because of what I do for a living, but I also went on and I researched and I found books about learning about money.
Of
because I
course.
want my children to have a good relationship with money. I don't, growing up, I remember, hearing, people say, and certain people from a particular generation, money is the root of all evil. And I want them to have a great relationship with money. And so I want them to have this early discipline of money as a resource, have an abundant mindset, and that through stories early on, they can see the power of the discipline of saving. And so I brought one, actually. You can't buy a dinosaur with a dime. And
you can't.
you definitely can't. But it's a great story about saving. There are tons of other books that even introduce investment theories and philosophies, but at a very early age, for as young as age 4 and 5.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And so I highly recommend just bringing that in early and instilling that in your kids. And I think you touched on other aspects and ways of doing it. When you go to the pharmacy, there's a certain amount.
Yeah.
And they have to look and they have to gauge what that is. Sitting
Let's see
down,
let's
going
see the
through-
front of the book again. And the
You
title?
can't buy a dinosaur with a dime.
You can't buy a dinosaur with a dime. Excellent.
So this is a really fun book, but there are many, many more.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
literally take you from age 4 till they're teenagers.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Deborah, and thank you, Tina, for that question. We now have another question on IG. That's King Kimmy, I think it is.
Yeah.
Any tips on how to balance career, motherhood, and finances? That's a big one. Balancing career, motherhood, and finances. I'm going to throw that one to you, Yendi, because you have a big career and you have big goals. And you
Well-
talked about discipline. Let's
Yes.
hear it.
Well, Shelly and Deborah's going to say, if you guys know, tell me, because, no, I'm kidding. I actually feel like I'm finally at that place where I've established a healthy balance. And I think the base of being able to do that has been the discipline. And so, I don't know if you saw before, King Kimmy, but in putting money aside as you need it for each month, as much as you know that if you don't pay that light bill, your light going to lock off, same with your water, treat yourself the same. So
Yeah.
let's say the thing that brings you a bit of balance or brings you back to the center is a spa. Let's just say it's a massage.
Yeah.
You know what? Every month I would like to get a massage because that's my time. So make that a line item.
your
Don't ever
budget.
put that money as the what is left, then it will happen. No.
Right.
Like Deborah said before, allow that to be in the important money that is, if this don't happen, is a problem.
Yeah.
And put that in the budget. So my massage is in the budget. It may also be going to a movie when movies open back.
Yes. Yes.
It may be going to the movie. It may be box tickets to the movies, girl, because we're going to live a little. And popcorn at the movies and hot dogs. So you say, okay, $5,000 aside for that. Is 5,000 that can cover it
It's
now?
almost.
I don't know, we'll see.
Thereabouts.
Okay.
I actually used to do that with my firstborn, movies and food and the works. Yeah.
And then what I do personally is, so as much as I am very career oriented, I'm also a very traditional woman in my home. So every meal my family consumes, I cook, I prepare. So I do enjoy the kitchen, but what I do is I wake up at 4 o'clock before my family is awake.
At 4 o'clock.
I
yes.
do.
Okay.
At 4 a.m., me and
Okay.
the angels up in there. I do my meditation, I do my morning prayers, I center myself, start every day with gratitude because it is a blessing that we have life. And then you
Yes.
set the tone. I go in the kitchen, I take out dinner, I start season up, and I take that time for me, right? It's me time. You get things done before there is any talk around you, before people are asking you things, before the
Distractions
baby
as
is
well.
pulling at your
Yes.
skirt. You get some silence. Open the windows, smell the fresh, crisp air, drink your morning tea or coffee, and take that time for you. You may be a night person, take it in the night when everyone goes to bed. But you have to take the moments that you need to restore yourself and make the things that make you happy a priority on your budget.
You know, what I'm hearing you say is that the balance is not just about looking at the dollar and cents.
It's not,
It's the emotional, it's the psychological, it's the well-being.
Which the dollars and cents support.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
right. You
Thank
can't
you.
pour from
Powerful.
an empty cup.
You can't.
Right.
That's
Any
right.
comments on this one about balance and finances, motherhood?
I think that, you know, when I saw the question, what stood out for me is, you know, as a career woman, it's was a very deliberate choice that I made, and I love my career. And one of the things that I would say to mothers who your career is important is to own it. And because I think that sometimes we can suffer from guilt because we love our work, and sometimes this whole idea of balance, I think it shifts.
Yeah.
And
Precisely.
you know, we have to be flexible with that. So I think you have to own it, that you love your career. Never make your job the bad guy that's taking you away from your children, because I think that's a role modeling exercise. So, you know, certainly for me, when I have to be, you know, here on this set and I'm away from the kids, I say, Mommy is so excited to be able to, you know, I'm going to see Auntie Yendi, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to get to talk, you know, to lots of other mummies out there. I love my job. I want them to have as well that experience that what they have to look forward
Yeah.
to.
Right,
The job
right.
is an amazing thing.
Not
So
just a
own that,
burden.
own your career. I agree, you can't pour from an empty cup. So if that's your 15 minutes in the morning of your meditations or your prayer to start your day on the right footing, making sure that you exercise.
Yes. That's key.
So important.
One of the things that has been, I believe, if you want to find a silver lining in this COVID period, is that I've been able to exercise more. You know, working from home has allowed me to be able to exercise, and actually to exercise and do stuff with my children.
Right.
Things I didn't get to do before.
Yes.
And so even in this difficult time, there have been these great things. And then how you choose to spend your time is important. And I want to tie this back into investments and saving again. I'm in investments. I could choose to spend time just determining what stocks to buy and trying to time the markets and what do I invest in. I choose to find a trusted advisor. I sit down, I determine what I'm going to do. I invest in funds. I'm a huge fan. And it allows me a freedom and time back to focus on my children.
Powerful. You're buying freedom,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
and I think that's a big part of the benefit of money management.
Yes.
I want to jump over to you, Yendi, in trying to understand how cash flow is key to successful financial planning. Let me hear your thoughts on that.
So, well, for me, this is interesting because, again, I mentioned cash flow is not a guarantee
Right.
with my career.
Exactly.
Right? And funny enough, for many persons, I think the majority of Jamaicans don't have a salary at the end of every single month.
I think you're right.
The vast majority, right? So, to be very frank, the majority of Jamaicans figure it out as each week goes by.
Yeah.
So I think the cash flow factor is critically important. You have to track what you're putting out. I think one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of people make, especially those who gain access to a credit card, is that they spend much more than they bring in, and then you end up in
Problems.
this uphill climb of trying to recoup the debt that is just
Yeah.
mounting.
Yeah.
So one of my biggest practices is living within my means. I always live within my means, and it doesn't matter if I get extra job this month or if I get a big payday with a new contract. If I can survive on the $20,000, I go still survive on the $20,000, and whatever the bonus that came in, I will enjoy some of it, but 90% of it is going to be allocated elsewhere, and I'll take the 10, as Deborah suggested, as the book Richest Man in Babylon suggested, right?
Let me ask you a question,
you
Yendi,
enjoy,
because
but you
you're
have to
saying
manage it.
living within your means.
Yes.
And I'm figuring that people watching us going, no, we can't live with it. How did you gain this sense of commitment to living within your means, that discipline? Where did that come from?
Because I never grew up with it. We never grew up with it, meaning money. So if you don't have it, you understand how to make do with what you have. So I have no problem eating sardines for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because that's just what
Breakfast,
needs to
lunch,
happen.
and dinner.
To breakfast, lunch,
and dinner.
Dinner,
Okay.
girl. Season it different. For breakfast with extra onion. Lunch, little curry. Actually, no.
Barbecue.
We don't
There's no
curry.
barbecue.
Barbecue the sardine. We don't curry the sardine. But I don't think there's anything wrong with being aspirational.
Yeah.
I am a huge dreamer. As a child, I wasn't able to travel. My parents couldn't afford travel. And I was sharing with Deborah before when we were chatting a bit that whenever we'd write the back to school essay in September, I was the only kid in my class who wrote about my summer in St. Mary, when everybody else wrote about Disney and Florida. And I was like, well, in St. Mary, I had to pick up the eggs at 6 o'clock in the chicken coop, and that was my essay. And I remember saying to my mom that when I grow up, I'm going to make sure I can travel the world.
Yeah.
Because I didn't like that I didn't have that essay.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. And so living within my means, for me, I'm going to live within this % of my income, because this additional percentage of my income will allow me and facilitate this aspiration that I've had since as a child, my childhood dream of traveling and seeing the world. So that's what I do for my treat, if you will, because I think you have to treat yourself. So I clear my debts. I pay my credit card every single month. My aim is to zero my credit card every month. I love Scotia, but they ain't gonna make no extra interest off of me if you have the interest in the mortgage. And so you pay your debts, and then you have the excess that you can do with what you would like after you've done your savings. You understand?
Yeah. Powerful, insightful, and a lot of lessons there for all of us. I want to jump over to you now, Deborah, to talk about investment. How do we invest for tomorrow while living within our means today? Talk about that.
So I think what's important, even before you can, we talk about investment, but I think that it's important to start from, can I even be investing?
Yeah.
So, because there are really 4 pillars to financial planning. And it starts with emergency planning. And emergency planning is critical. Your emergency fund is critical. And so one of the first things that you have to do, if you don't have 6 up to 12 months of your annual earnings in a short-term instrument, then you are setting yourself up for the what ifs. And so through automatic savings plans, you should be first looking to save toward building up that emergency fund.
Right.
Once you have done that, I think you can have a conversation about investing.
Okay.
And then you can think about your investment planning. And, I mentioned these pillars, but you have your emergency planning, you have insurance planning, you have investment planning, you have retirement planning. And I know Yendi told me you're retiring when?
In 10 years.
In 10 years' time.
We'll check her in 10 years.
Right?
And see what's
And so you can travel the world. And that's an important thing to know, because your retirement plan and your investment plan has to reflect that.
Right.
10 years. And so your risk profile, how much risk you can take, will also reflect what do I put my money in. And so I think it's really important that you sit down, you work out what kind of risk am I willing to take, how long do I have, and to achieve this particular goal, and then plot that path through, I talked about mutual funds and unit trust products, which I believe is the best way to get going with investing, because it allows you to participate in all asset classes with a small amount of money and just invest consistently over time, which is extremely important. So you want to be investing early so that you have the benefit of that long range, right? And you started early. You have 10 years to go, right? So you'll be able to achieve your goal. You want to invest regularly, right? That discipline of doing it every month. Diversify, which I think the best way, especially if you're just starting out and you want to invest over time, is through these funds, and then stay invested. One of the things that I realize is right now in the stock market, there are IPOs, APOs, and it's very easy to get kind of swayed into putting your money in one particular type of investment. But all of this, the research has shown that a diversified portfolio is what is going to withstand the test of time, take you through the volatility, and I think we can all agree last year has been hugely volatile, and take you to and allow you to achieve your goals. So staying invested. There's another saying that says it's not timing the markets, it's time in the markets. So you really have to stay the course if you're going to be invested. You have to have the discipline, and especially as it relates to your retirement planning, because that's the longest one. That's the one you think you have all the time in the world for. And so outside of investing, you usually will also need, and I'm going to say it the other way around, you should have a retirement plan and support that retirement plan with investments. So have an approved retirement scheme. Maybe it's your group pension in your company, or it's an approved retirement scheme like Scotiabridge,
Right.
where you're able to invest pre-tax up to 20% of your gross annual income.
Right.
But maybe depending on when you've started, that's not enough to get you to your retirement goal, because they say by the time you get to retirement, you'll need at least, depending on what you want to do in your retirement, at least 80% of your income today.
Right.
So that's a lot of money, and we live longer, especially us women,
Right.
right? We live a lot longer. And so it means that we have to be very deliberate. So that approved retirement scheme plus an investment portfolio, that completes the iceberg in terms of the seen and the unseen, and being able to retire in style, the way that you want.
So retire in style, invest, but you're also, all of that is creating a legacy.
It is
and
creating a legacy.
generational wealth. Talk some more about that for me, Deborah.
So I think that it's important. I think fundamentally, as parents, as moms, you know, depending on how we have been raised, I think it's built into us that we want to leave the next generation a little better than the last.
Right, right.
Right? So just making those small improvements. And we're hopeful, and we want more for our children. And so leaving a legacy is really about that transition of your assets, but also your knowledge, your philosophies.
Yes, your habits.
To the next generation.
Yes.
And I say that because it's not just about the money that I leave. It's also about the discipline and the relationship with money, the work ethic that you're building in those children, so that they also can steward those assets to the next generation.
It's funny, when I heard Deborah a while ago mention the relationship with money, I remember when my daughter started losing her teeth, I was very sure to get her the shiniest $20 coins I could find. Because I mean, people were ripping with, I posted it on Instagram on my page, and people were just like, you really? $20 you give her? Yes. You know why? I wanted her to value that $20 coin. I wanted her to get excited about $20, a shiny gold $20 coin that came from the tooth fairy. I wanted her to see value in that.
Yeah.
Because then she sees value also in the $50 note, in the $100 note, and let's not even talk, a nanny, plus she's the only heroine, a $500
That's a big deal.
Big
Yes.
deal for her.
Yes.
It was critically important for me to foster an appreciation of money. I think our children should never take money for granted.
Yeah.
I think they should all understand that it is remuneration comes as a result of hard work and commitment and discipline and dedication. And while it shouldn't rule our lives and money should not be the end all be all, it is so important to appreciate what you do have and value what you have, and in such manage it accordingly. I think that's really important.
Absolutely.
How do you do the pocket money thing as a mom? What does that look like for both of you?
Well, for me, it's the tooth fairy money. It's also chore money. She also makes items, and they're sold, i.e. coloring book pages.
Drawings.
Not great, but we're going to work with it. We're going to empower her, build her up.
Yes.
It's great-ish. You see, how much is that, you know?
$1,000.
No, not worth it. I don't know. But also what has happened now is she's acquired a bit of savings, and she has a little friend who does these tie-dye shirts. And she said to me, she was like, Mommy, I'd like to buy a tie-dye shirt from my friend. And she was like, and I'd like to use my money. And she was very proud to say,
nice.
You know, I can use my money. I said, okay. I said, ask her the cost. She did. We counted her money, so she knew how much she would give her and how much change she would get. And then she said to me, okay, well, if I do X amount of chores, I can put back what I spent on the... And I said, you get it.
How old is she again?
She's 8.
That's powerful.
Yeah. She's 8.
Yeah.
So she already understands that, okay, I've earned this, I can buy this for myself, and I'm going to put it back.
There's a sense of pride.
Yeah. She wears that shirt all the time, as much as I eat sardines. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Awesome. Thank you, Yendi. Pocket money, Deborah. How does that work for you and your kids?
So, you know, I think that it's certainly still a work in progress in my house. I think my daughter she takes the sharing part very seriously, right? She's the bleeding heart.
Oh, bless
And
her.
so money burns a hole in her pocket because she would give it all away if she could.
Tell her call me.
Right? My son is much more disciplined. So, he's going to put a lot more in his save, whereas she really wants to share it all. But certainly they earn it through chores. They earn it through a reward chart in terms of behaviors over time. So they're able to, earn a little extra just even through just the discipline. Especially what I found in the last year with schooling from home was just ensuring that if there are certain behaviors and stuff, to recognize that and that they could earn a little bit from those behaviors, because it's really around discipline that I want to create. So they earn a little bit of money, and then they're able to take a small amount of it will go to, let's say, the pharmacy, and they know that they have X amount. Invariably, Noah is going to squirrel it away and get himself something. Emmanuel is going to buy something for all of our friends to make sure that all the love is spread around. So I think that that's how we kind of deal with the pocket money situation. But I wanted to, we're talking a little bit about legacy, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the benefit of insurance. And insurance planning, because we talked about investment planning, we talked about emergency planning, we talked about retirement planning. But insurance planning is extremely important.
Yes.
Because insurance planning really is around protection. And one of the things that I've realized, and it's not just true in Jamaica, but I would dare say that for all of our viewers, for everyone that's watching now, your chances are you are uninsured or you're underinsured. So it's the most natural thing in the world. If we get a car, we take a car loan, we get car insurance. But yet, and especially for those of us who are women-led households and are the breadwinners, you are the key person. And so you need to put that protection and that insurance on your life. Because it's going to mean that if something happens to you, God forbid, that you're not leaving your family burdened with loans, credit card debt, mortgages, right? I've seen so many of these situations, and it's extremely sad. And so make sure that you talk with an insurance advisor about having a life insurance policy and covering your life, because it will be the difference between you being able to actually fulfill your legacy and ensuring that your children get the education that you wanted for them if something was to happen to you before your time.
You're talking about the what ifs. And, earlier this year, or I think it was last month, the Gleaner came out with a story about 1,000 cases of divorce since January. The other day, I was in my car talking with a friend who is going through a divorce, and we're talking about money and kids, and I was trying to encourage her. And at the same time that I was in my car, a lady knocked me on my window. I was in the plazas, and she said, "Hi, miss, I'm 63, and I am going through a divorce. Can you give me $500? Honestly, tears came to my eyes, and I said, what can we do for women? What do we tell women? How do you prepare for this what if? Nobody plans for it,
No, you don't.
Nobody plans for it. But let's get into that for a minute.
So what I would say is that every woman needs to have her own money, her own account. We grow up, we talk about, you're going somewhere, you make sure you have your VEX money, right? And I think it's important that as a women, we have our own money. I would also say that you need to make sure, when we get married for life.
Yeah, that's
right?
the
It's a
plan.
commitment for life, but things happen. And I think that you have to be partners in finance, in your financial affairs. And what I mean by that is that you have to be at the table with your husband at the bank, whether it's for you're getting credit cards,
Absolutely.
whether you're doing a mortgage. I've seen one too many times where women believe that their husband was taking care of these things, and they turned out to not be a joint holder of a credit card, but a supplementary card holder. And then when something happens in this situation, it was the passing of her husband, those cards went away. She had no credit history. She ended up having to rely on her son going forward. And so the learning is you have to be at the table in your financial affairs you have to learn about investing. You have to learn about all the various products and vehicles that are available
Yeah.
to you.
And
And
empower
make sure
yourself.
that
Yeah.
you understand what you're getting into, right? Knowledge is power.
Thank you for that, Deborah. I think we could go to town on this one, but we have another question on Instagram. That's Dane. I'll call you Dane. K. Moy Dane is asking, at what stage did money management become important? Was it when you became a mom? Is your partner important in your money management decisions? We touched on some of that with a partner bit, but they're asking at what stage did it become important, and was it when you became a mom? I think that question is layered. I'm going to ask you to jump in first, and then we can come to you, Deborah.
I think the day you make your first check, the day you earn your very first check. And funny enough, my uncle used to work at Scotiabank. And when I got my very first check, it was a modeling gig that I'd done. And the poster came out, and he came to my home. My mom had recently passed, so she passed when I was 16. And so I got my first check, and he would often, on the way home from the bank, stop in and just check in on us, on my dad, my brother, and I. And he said to me, "Oh, I see you in the papers. I see and he said, "What to do with your money?" And I said to him, "I open an account, and the money is there, but I haven't done anything yet." And my uncle carried me to a broker, and I bought my first stocks.
Nice.
17. But also...
This was 17, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
But I wouldn't have known that. So it was the guidance of someone in my life who had the experience, who worked in finance, who was very aware and savvy. And he said to me, "Come, I will buy a 2 stock here and a 2 stock here and a 2 stock there." And he said to me, "Every check you get, buy a few stocks." And that's been my practice ever since. And then, as you mentioned earlier, I diversified. So then I did a repo, and then I did, right? Okay.
Right.
So I think you start when you start to earn money. I think once you start getting an income, you have to look at building your portfolio.
Yeah.
The day you make your first check.
Yes.
When you become a mom, then what is critically important increases. So you have other line items that's added to the responsibility.
Other people have been added.
So
yes.
when my daughter was in utero, she wasn't yet born, didn't even know whether she was a boy or a girl. I sat with someone, and we worked out her tertiary education fund.
Yes.
Not because she necessarily wants to get a tertiary education, but in the event that she does, there's
prepared.
preparation
Yes.
in place. And relationship, as Deborah just mentioned, I think it's very important that both the woman and the man are involved in the financial conversations.
Yeah.
You said it perfectly when you said a woman must also sit at the table.
Yes.
I don't think we should be blindsided by the financial choices, and I think as much as we know how to work our way around the house, we also need to work our way around the bank. So sit at the table, understand the conversations, and research. Google is your best friend when it comes to finances and understanding
Awesome,
investment.
and fully agreed. We're almost out of time, so I want to give the
No,
last
what?
few comments to you, Deborah, in terms of just some of the stuff people have asked. Our viewers have been really submitting their questions and some of the thoughts on, just some of the actions you can take now. Watching, you're a mom, you're a dad, whoever is watching. Some of the actions you could take right now to manage your money.
So, what I would say to our viewers and to all the mummies and daddies that are out there is that sometimes that we believe we don't have enough to start. And so when we have more, then we will begin to save or invest. And what I would say to you is that large sums started from small amounts of money.
Yeah.
Right? Every mickle make a muckle. And so it's really going to be about taking action now, right? The choices you make today can change the course of your future.
Yeah.
So go and sit down with your banker, sit with an advisor, and take a look at where things are at for you now. Dream a little bit about the future, set some goals, and begin the discipline of making and putting that into reality.
Yeah.
And you can do that with a sound financial plan.
Yeah, I think discipline and sound financial plan, Those are the two phrases I'm walking away with. I think that has resonated throughout our conversation. Thank you so much for those insights. Last word, two or three words from you, Yendi, before I close out.
I just think that everyone should not look at finances and money as something to be afraid of or something that's a burden.
Yeah.
It's something that it simply facilitates the life you want.
Yes.
That's right.
And so I think you have to treat it as such and not think of it as something that's the root of all evil, but think of it as something that can bless you to have an abundant life. And I think a healthy relationship with money is important. And I think we have to instill that in our little ones from early out,
Yes.
so that they too understand that abundance is here for us. I mean, life more abundant, right, Shelia?
Yes.
It's an
Life-
actress girl thing. sorry, Deborah.
Immaculate is good too. We're friends, right? Okay, that's all the time we have for today. Let me give you a few takeaways before we close things out. We should be planning. We should set short and long-term goals, help your children to become smart money managers, create opportunities for children to earn, prepare to leave a financial legacy, have a retirement plan, consider the value of life insurance, we covered that, and remember to invest early, regularly, and diversify. Ladies, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. We want to thank everyone who was watching here on ScotiaLive, the webinar today. We're available to respond to any additional questions you may have. You can send us a direct message through our Instagram page at Scotiabank Jam. Thank you for choosing Scotiabank. I'll see you soon. I'm P.L.A.N.
Download the new Scotia app with a faster low-time bank wherever, whenever. Be in control and transfer funds or pay bills quicker with just a few taps and a swipe. Plus, we're serious about security. Want real-time notifications for all your transactions? Check. Log in with fingerprint? Check. Turn your credit card on and off? Triple check. Protected. Your money is safe and secure. Bank wherever, whenever. You choose with the new Scotia app.
Boom. Wow. Stop. What?
Oliver,
Is who that hollering out my name?
who are you for them because Scotiabank?
Quick, go which bank? Whole foot like we fit on our yard and bank online.
Ain't that safe?
It's the safest thing. Just download the Scotia app or go to Scotia online for everything like transfer or check your balance and everything online free. Free. Bank with Scotia online. Let me show you. But I'm not going with my phone.